In order to better serve the children of Alachua County, in February 2018, the Board of County Commissioners unanimously voted to move forward with a voter referendum to create and fund the Children's Trust of Alachua County. In November 2018, the voters of Alachua County approved the referendum, which allowed the trust to receive a dedicated funding source of approximately $8 million per year. Marsha is the executive director of the Children's Trust of Alachua County. She was selected by the board of the trust after a search and started her new leadership role on October 1st, 2022. Marsha was most recently the executive director and CEO of the Association of Florida Colleges. She served as the associate executive director for 14 years and interim executive director for 1 year. In July 2021, she was promoted to the executive director/CEO position and was the first African American and female in that position in the history of the association. Marsha was raised in Alachua County, attended local public schools, and worked at Santa Fe College. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Journalism from the University of Florida and a Master of Science in Educational Leadership from Capella University. Marsha is an active member, mentor, and volunteer with numerous organizations, including the Alzheimer's Association, Alachua County Schools, the American Heart Association, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, Inc. Welcome, Marsha.
Thank you, Mark.
When I met with you a month ago or whatever it was, I was just so fascinated by your story that I knew I had to invite you here. And I am so pleased to let the folks of Alachua County get to know you better, those that don't know you already. So can we just start by kind of going back and telling me what it was like to grow up in Alachua County? When did you get here? And let's start that journey.
Certainly. What was it like to grow up in Alachua County? It was a beautiful experience for me. My friends and colleagues throughout the state would tease me that Gainesville could not be that great, right? I always say I bleed orange and blue for UF, and growing up here, having parents who were educators, it was a special time for me. I believe that the village raises the child, and that meant that my church, Spring Hill Missionary Baptist Church. My parents were educators. My father was a dean and coach. And so we came to the county in the early 70s, and my parents were both teachers at Santa Fe High School. So kindergarten through second grade, I was at Alachua Elementary. Then they moved over to Buchholz High School. Oh. And so I then moved to a neighborhood school, Williams Elementary, followed by Lincoln Middle School. And then, of course, I'm a proud graduate of Buchholz High School.
So you were at Buchholz while
I was.
Your dad was the dean
While
there?
my dad was the dean and coach, and my mom was a teacher, so I didn't have many dates.
I was going to say, it would take a brave young lad to date the dean's daughter.
You know, hindsight is 20/20. When I run into friends and colleagues, classmates, they tell me, I wanted to date you, but I was afraid of your dad.
Yeah. And then you went from there right to the University of Florida?
I did.
Right out of high school?
Right out of high school.
Yeah.
And I like to lovingly say I was a fifth-year senior, and my parents said, okay, it's time to graduate. And so I graduated and was lucky enough to have a job with a newspaper straight out of college, thanks to the journalism school.
Now, did that interest in journalism, did that come out of your earlier days, or?
I think high school.
High school?
I always had a little bit of a gift for gab, and if you remember in the 80s, late 80s in particular, Oprah had arrived on the scene, and I was nicknamed Baby Oprah. So that kind of started it, but I always was a creative writer, speech and debate. In high school, Kiwanis Club won a lot of their speech and debate tournaments locally and nationally, and so that began my love for journalism.
And are your parents still here, still alive? Or?
So my father is deceased, but my mother is still here, and I have a brother who is local as well.
Yeah. Was your mom glad to have her daughter back?
Oh, my mother is ecstatic.
I'll
yes,
bet.
most definitely.
Okay, and then so you went to UF.
I did.
Studied journalism.
I did.
What did you have a mind to do? Were you thinking about reporting or?
I did. I thought that I would run out and conquer the world and make a difference by telling people's stories. Again, I always was interested in listening to an individual story. As a kid, the people and the places that always resonated with me had a story. And so going through the J School, I knew that the way that I felt I was going to make a difference in the world was by being able to highlight the stories of the individuals that I met. I graduated, got a position with the Anderson Independent Mail out of Anderson, South Carolina, but I was a Georgia Bureau reporter. So I was in 5 counties of rural Northeast Georgia.
That's right out of college?
Right out of college.
In rural Northeast?
Rural Northeast, where most of the folks didn't look like me.
No?
No. But when I tell you, it was the best experience really of my life up until that point.
Yeah.
Growing up in Gainesville with the parents that I had, this was a cocoon. This was, like I said, my childhood, I believe, was really a beautiful time for me. And there weren't many challenges, and I always felt seen here, if you know what I mean. I was able to. There wasn't a place that I would go. Quick story. I'm in college now, right? I'm on campus. There's a difference between high school Marsha and college Marsha, and you all don't bother me because I'm in college.
Yeah.
And so I'm a freshman. I'm a sophomore. We're going out. We're having a good time.
Your dad's not the dean.
Exactly, exactly. And but I always went home on Sundays for church and Sunday dinner. And so we're sitting there, and I always took friends home with me from my dorm. So we're there one Sunday, and we're eating, and my father says, "So how was Central City?" Central City was a club over on University Avenue.
I remember.
And I'd been there on Thursday night. And so the lesson I learned early on in my collegiate time here was that although I was no longer at Buchholz High School, I was still in Gainesville, Florida.
Your dad had eyes
everywhere. So moving to rural Georgia, where really it was the first time I was away from home, right? I was on my own in a really small community, which I think is why, and I'm sure we'll talk about our rural county, our rural cities here in the county, which is why they matter so much to me, because I spent 2 years in a little small town called Toccoa, Georgia. And the people that I met there were literally, when you hear the adage, salt of the earth, that's who they were. Black, white, didn't matter. They literally adopted this little Florida girl and made her a citizen of their community.
Did you have a particular beat as a reporter? Crime,
Georgia
or city,
Bureau,
or?
we did it all.
You did it all.
I covered city, I covered county, I covered
school board,
education,
yeah.
You named it. The Georgia Bureau was all inclusive. If it was news, we covered it.
Now, how did the transition happen from journalism to, I know, your master's degree in educational leadership?
Yeah,
that's
how
did that evolve?
So I look back on that time now, and I consider the early 90s to be the start of somewhat of sensational journalism, sensationalized journalism. And our paper had a policy called the fatal policy. So if someone were to, pass away accidentally, regardless, our policy was that the reporter would go on the scene, and back then we listened to scanners. This is old school. We listened to the scanner. We heard what was going on. We showed up with our handy dandy camera, and we captured all the information on the scene, and then we got the information of the deceased, and then I showed up on their doorstep.
Right.
I did not like that.
No.
I was, it really created a problem for me. And I decided pretty early on that if that was what journalism was going to be, it was going to change who I was. And that began the transition.
Interesting. So when did you make, or how, or why did you make the decision to get the master's degree in educational leadership?
So in 1997, my father had a stroke. I was living in Georgia. By that time, I had begun working for the University of Georgia, working with their TRIO program. So I kind of found my way to education. And I decided I really wanted to move back to Florida. One of my, when I left the paper, I went to work for an organization called the Northeast Georgia Regional Development Center. And I was the programs manager for a summer jobs program for youth. And it was a 8-month program, grant funded. And one of my job sites was with the University of Georgia. And the gentleman who was in charge of the TRIO programs called me and said, I know that position is going to end. I would love for you to come and work with our students with TRIO. And so that's how I found my way into education. When my father had his stroke, I decided I needed to move closer to home. And was lucky enough to get a job back here in Florida, and eventually, about a year later, found my way to Santa Fe College here in Gainesville.
Right, right. So, gosh, I wish I had a 2-hour program.
I know.
Can you kind of quickly let us know? I know you had some really fascinating jobs, but your most recent one was
with the
kind of
association.
Historic in some
Yeah.
ways. Can you give us a quick kind of
Sure.
taste of how that all evolved?
So, working at Santa Fe, I guess I've been at Santa Fe about a month and a half, and my father had another stroke and subsequently passed away. And my supervisor at the time, when I came back to work, said, you've changed. And of course, when you have a life-altering event, you do.
Right.
But he tricked me. He told me about this little organization called the Florida Association of Community Colleges. And he said, go to the meeting, and you're going to be our representative. And really, I tell everybody I drank the Kool-Aid. I started attending meetings. The next thing I knew, I was the chapter president. The next thing I knew, I was the membership chair. I was serving on the board. And that began my work with then the Florida Association of Community Colleges. And then we became the Association of Florida Colleges in 2010.
Right.
And so about 4 years in, I was sent to a leadership program where I met the gentleman who became the COO of the organization. The then CEO had a heart attack, and that gentleman became the CEO. And he called me and he said, Marsha, I would love for you to come and work with me in Tallahassee and be our COO. And that began my work with the Association of Florida Colleges.
And I'm sorry to shorten it, but it didn't. A certain amount of time went by and you took over the whole shebang.
You got it. 2020 happened, and our CEO decided that he wanted to retire. And the board came to me and said, hey, you've been here this entire time. You know the membership, and we want you to be at the helm as we go through this particular time, of all of our history, right? And that's how I became the CEO.
I want to tell the viewers at home, you've given us the Reader's Digest. I've heard the long version, and it's fascinating. Let's get to the trust.
Yes.
Something that I've been hearing a lot about lately is the listening program. Can you share with our residents what that is? Yes.
So in late September, early October, we began our listening project. The board and staff had been having conversations about the need for a strategic plan. The trust got started. We quickly were formed. We decided that there were going to be some buckets, right? Some priorities, health, education, supporting children, creating safe environments for children. And so now that we've been in existence for a little while, the board felt that it was time to come back to the community, to receive feedback and to ask, are we meeting the needs of the community?
Right.
And if not, what are those gaps? And so we have surveyed, we had interviews with our service providers, with our partners, with our youth and parents here in the community, asking questions about are we on track? If not, where should we be headed? And so all of the information that we have captured, we are going to use to inform our strategic plan and to help us with our priority funding moving forward. We've been funding programs related to early education, pre-birth to 5 years, have a good number of programs that are speaking to literacy. But what's missing? What haven't we provided for? And so we are excited about our listening project.
You have to be careful that you don't get into your own echo chamber, and you check in with the public every once in a while. You mentioned your affinity for the rural areas and the small cities in Alachua County. Tell us about your engagement with them.
Well, I was so excited when I started with the Trust to find out we have a dedicated staff person who is our community engagement coordinator. And she does an excellent job of meeting with our community. So this past year, we were at community events. I mean, everything from festivals to chamber meetings, the League of City meetings, city commission meetings, county commission meetings. So you name it, we are there. We are supporting the entire community here in Alachua County. That I'm really proud of that fact.
Marsha, first of all, I want to thank you and the Children's Trust for helping fund our camp, Cuscabillo, last year. But tell me about the summer camps that you support and the students that they serve.
Oh yes, well I'm excited to talk about our summer camps. We served over 1,100 students last summer at 28 camps throughout the county. One of the programs I'll highlight for you was our Teens Work Alachua program. It was a summer jobs program, and we served 220 youth, again, all over the county. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Newberry and meeting with some of the staff, and they were excited to tell me that they hired one of our campers from last summer. So we are really doing good work and providing great opportunities for our youth.
Now, do you provide pay for those
We
jobs?
do. We do provide pay.
Okay. How many can I have at one time?
Call me.
Okay. You know, kind of fitting in, dovetailing with summer camp and children needing activities and places to be. Tell me a little bit about the after-school programs. I know you're proud of those too.
We are. Our after-school programs, we are currently funding 6. And of course, similarly to the camps, after-school programs provide additional academic support, certainly safe environments for our youth. They provide an opportunity for our children to learn about careers. So we are extremely proud of our after-school work, and we are serving hundreds of children.
For the after-school program, for the summer camps, how does it work? Are they reduced price? Are there scholarships? Are they free? How do you figure all that out?
So certainly each service provider will have a plan for how we service their needs, but think of it in terms of scholarships. They are often a scholarship for the family. Some are based on income, and then others are strictly, you know, it's free for the young person. So we are really meeting our community where they are, and our programs represent that.
I know that these are considered grants, I assume, to these organizations and to nonprofits in general. How does it work? Is there a call for grants, and at a certain time of year people submit their projects? And
So again, going back to our listing project and
Yeah.
our strategic plan, this year we are hoping that as we finalize our strategic plan and look at what we will be funding moving forward, we will be able to put out an RFP to the community that says if you have programs or do work in this particular area, submit a proposal, and then those proposals will be graded, and then the best will be selected. So the programs that we currently have, that's how they were selected.
And it's more than just after-school programs and summer camp. There's
Correct.
a variety of services.
Exactly. We have year-round programs. You name it, we're doing it, and that's what's exciting about the trust. We really have a little bit of everything, and with our strategic plan, we will be able to hear from the community. Are we doing what the community would like for us to do? Are we funding the types of programs? Certainly, we want to fund more.
Right.
COVID slowed up that process a bit. The trust had some staffing changes,
Right.
one of which is why I've had this great opportunity to return back to this community. So now that we're moving forward, we are extremely excited about all of the work that's on the horizon.
I have been hearing about the need for a children's trust or this type of mechanism. I think it's been since the early 2000s. And it was such a pleasure to see a county commission that determined we're going to make this happen. And Lee Pinkeson and Ken Cornell and Mike Byerly and Robert Hutchinson and Chuck Chestnut, they pushed it forward. The current commission is continuing to support it. But the sheer scope of it is amazing to me. I did some volunteer work on the campaign to try to get it passed.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. Thank you. But I am just so thrilled that this community is so generous and willing to tax itself for the benefit of our children. I think I said early on it raises about $8 million a year, depending on what's going on with property values. But can you give me an idea, like, of approximately how much of that was spent towards these nonprofits? Maybe your last fiscal year? Or?
Yeah. So this past year, we spent about $4.5 million in total on programs and services, direct programs and services to youth through those programs we were just speaking of. We are doing the work, Mark. In my short tenure with the trust, coming back to Gainesville and Alachua County, I have been so impressed by the heart of our county. Our service providers, I've had the pleasure of meeting with a number of them, and each one, again, I love to hear someone's story, right? So I'm asking them, why are you doing this work? What brought you to this place at this time? And to a person, they are committed to making sure that our children in this community have the very best and have opportunities to become their very best. There's nothing greater, right, than that.
Yeah. On that note, how can the citizens stay engaged or be involved in the Children's Trust?
Well, I encourage everyone. Certainly we have a website. We invite you to come to our website. You will find out about our programs on our website. You can see old board meetings if you're interested.
Every night I tune in to the old board meetings.
But really there's a wealth of information, right, and resources for you on our website. We certainly have an active social media pages from Facebook to Twitter to Instagram to LinkedIn. We're there. We put out a monthly newsletter. I invite the community to come to our website and sign up for our newsletter to find out what we're doing. But you can always call the Trust and ask to speak to Marsha.
And you can go to the meetings too.
And
the
we
board
would
meetings.
love to have
Yeah.
you at our public meetings, most certainly.
I am amazed that the time is up, but I want to thank you so much for sharing with us, and welcome home.
Oh, thank you.
All right, crew, let's get started. Sure.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s,
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.